Coming up on KCCI 8 News Close Up, a shocking crime in broad daylight on the streets of Manhattan. The victim's ties to Iowa and how the healthcare CEO is being remembered by those in his hometown.
This is a safe way to prevent that tragedy from happening.
We're taking a closer look at the changes to Iowa's safe haven law and how they're leading to easier access for parents making a difficult decision. Plus, legislative look ahead. Hear from Iowa lawmakers about their plans before the start of legislative session and what the people living in their districts want to see.
This is Iowa's news leader. This is KCCI 8 News Close Up.
Good morning and welcome to KCCI 8 News Close Up. I'm Chief Political Reporter Amanda Rooker. Last Wednesday, the CEO of United Healthcare died in an ambush at dawn. It happened as he was walking to the company's annual investor conference at a New York hotel. Brian Thompson is an Iowa native growing up in Hamilton County. Police say the attack was targeted and that Thompson was hit by at least 2 bullets. They say the shooter then ran from the scene, taking off on an electric bike into Central Park. Thompson leaves behind a wife and 2 sons.
Brian was a wonderful person with a big heart and who lived life to the fullest. He will be greatly missed by everybody. Our hearts are broken and we are completely devastated by this news. He touched so many lives.
Brian Thompson was a 1993 graduate of South Hamilton High School. One of his former teachers, who's now a principal there, still remembers him well. Our Kayla James has more on the meaningful legacy that Thompson left behind in Jewell.
The fact that he came from small town Iowa and still was able to achieve what he achieved says a lot for his drive.
A drive well known within the South Hamilton Middle and High School building, where in 1993,
Halls are the same, lockers are the same, pretty much lockers have been updated, but
Brian Thompson walked these halls as a senior.
Brian's classmates, I have their kids in this building now.
And was a student, then health teacher, and now principal Todd Coy remembers well.
Yep. He was humble, an outstanding student. He was liked by all. Which was a testament to why he was probably our class president. He was homecoming king his senior year. Here, hey, Jordan.
An athlete and
this is band room.
A trombone player, once sitting in this room with his classmates as a member of the school's band and beyond.
Yeah, it's not just to be good enough to be in band. He needed to be all-state band.
Excelling in anything he took part in was something Todd says Brian just did.
Yep. If he's going to be in golf, he was our medalist. He was our #1 golfer.
Todd says what stands out the most about Brian is he was a friend to all.
If you'd look at his class of '93 classmates, they would all tell you that they knew he was going to strive to be something big. Being a CEO of a large health insurance company does not surprise any of them.
But news of Brian's death,
just very sad, tragic,
did come as a surprise. What's helping Todd during this time is some of the things he says he's read.
He's pretty similar, it sounds like, as a father and a family man to what he showed here way back in 1993.
Brian was someone, Todd says, you couldn't help but be proud of.
We've had things that we can hang our hat on, and Brian definitely is one of those.
Kayla James, KCCI 8 News, Iowa's news leader.
And Todd says the times that he saw Brian when he did come back to visit, he was very well received by the people in Jewell. Well, changes to Iowa's safe haven laws have led to more babies being safely surrendered in our state. Our Bo Bowman talked to Iowa's Health and Human Services about a baby girl born in November who's now under their care.
Fire stations have always been a place where babies can be surrendered under the Safe Haven Act from 20 years ago. But a new addition to the law just 2 years ago allows fire stations to implement Safe Haven baby boxes.
So I think that it's important that we're offering another solution.
Norwalk Fire Chief Jennifer Porter says the community was inspired to join the program after a neglected Norwalk newborn was left to die in a trash bag in March of 2023.
And I think that this project could go beyond the city of Norwalk. We could be available to people in this side of the state, in this side of our county.
The Iowa legislature expanded the Safe Haven Act in 2023, now allowing people to give up their baby anonymously or through a newborn safety device at places staffed 24/7 with first responders. baby boxes.
We don't want to have stigma associated with this choice.
Kelly Garcia, Iowa's Director of Health and Human Services, says since the law was expanded, the state has seen a rise in surrendered babies. In fact, 22% of all Iowa safe haven babies have been surrendered in the last 2 years. Garcia believes the trend is a direct result of the expanded law.
The ability for individuals to understand that that is an option and that they can do it again anonymously without fear of prosecution is key to making sure that we create that safe environment for a safe haven baby.
Iowa's first baby box was installed in Fort Dodge just last year. The second, 2 months ago in Des Moines. Norwalk Fire hopes to become the third. Lieutenant Jacob Pemberton says in January they will be asking the community to help fundraise the remaining $25,000 with hopes of installing the baby box within the first few months of 2025.
After the first of the year, we're really going to kick off our fundraising campaign for it to open it up to the community. So hopefully sometime, I would say February, March, maybe we'll have the box in place.
Even if the fire station does not have a safe haven baby box, you can still surrender the baby at any fully staffed fire station. Hospitals are also an option. You can also call 911. In Norwalk, Bo Bowman, KCCI 8 News, Iowa's news leader.
Governor Kim Reynolds is calling on Congress to pass a new 5-year farm bill. She and 16 other Republican governors made the request last week in a letter to lawmakers on Capitol Hill. They wrote that the well-being of the nation is at risk if meaningful support is not provided soon. Congress has not been able to strike a deal on the new farm bill. Senator Chuck Grassley told KCCI a new 5-year farm bill is not likely to happen before the end of the year.
The best we can hope for between now and Christmas is a 1-year extension of the 2018 Farm Bill, and that's a sad commentary because we need help for farmers because of inflation, about 20% in seed, fertilizer, chemicals, diesel, and interest rates, and machinery parts, and all that.
There have been several different versions of potential new 5-year farm bills. However, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have not been able to come to an agreement. Some Republican lawmakers say just passing an extension will not be enough. Well, state lawmakers return to the Iowa State House next month for the 2025 legislative session. We've been across the state talking with politicians about their top priorities, and we've also been traveling to districts across central Iowa to talk with the people that these lawmakers represent. In Des Moines, there are 2 Democrats that represent part of the city. Isaiah Knox represents State Senate District 17. It covers several Des Moines neighborhoods, including Oak Park, Prospect Park, Drake area, and parts of the East Village. And Rob Johnson, who's just elected in November to represent Iowa House District 34. Now, some of their constituents are calling for change for the youngest Iowans in their community.
And you have to
in Miss Briggs' class.
What did you make there?
Kindergarten students make pictures.
And what's down here? The tail. The tail?
With the shapes they're given.
You only get 3 greens. 3? Yeah, and you don't get any browns. No browns? Oh, yeah.
But when it comes to building blocks for learning, not all of her students started with the same amount.
The kids that come in from preschool have a little bit better foundation of understanding how a classroom operates and what's expected. And then you have the kids that weren't able to and may have been at home their entire 5 years just with their moms and not had any exposure out.
The state funds half-day preschool, but that doesn't work for everyone.
If you have a working parent, half-day preschool doesn't work because you can't get off at lunchtime and go pick up your kid in a job. I mean, that's just reality.
She says access to free full-day preschool would help close the learning gaps she sees in her classroom.
Education is really the passport of the future.
State Senator Isaiah Knox,
number one priority is preschool. Right, full-day preschool for people in my community.
Sees the need. The Des Moines Democrat says state funding for full-day preschool would expand access for all kids and help working parents who can't afford childcare.
And it'll be parental choice, right? Like kids, if you don't want your kid to go to preschool, full-day preschool, you don't have to. If they're still staying at home or only going to half-day, whatever. But we want them to be able to have that opportunity.
We're great to have Rob.
Barber Darrell Jones lives in Knox's district.
We just need more help with the youth.
He's also focused on the next generation, but says they need support outside of school too.
When I was growing up, I can go to the community center and it was free. programs. There was free this. They took away and everything costs now. They just need help. It takes a community to raise a family.
Jones has a new representative in the Iowa House, Democrat Rob Johnson.
I'm excited. I'm excited because we have an opportunity to go to work.
Johnson wants that work to improve mental health.
I think mental health is an opportunity for us to not only help our educators, help our students, help our parents, but it's an opportunity to really just help our community.
He wants more providers in schools and communities across the state.
It'll also help alleviate some of the stress off of our police department to help make sure that we're not just arresting a bunch of people to get them the help, but we're being proactive in getting people the mental health resources that they desperately need.
And coming up next, we're headed to more communities to hear from Iowans and their leaders about the differences they want to see in 2025. Stay with us. Welcome back to Close Up. We continue our conversation now with leaders and community members in House District 38 that covers Jasper County and includes Newton, Colfax, and Baxter. Republican John Dunwell represents that district. He told me he's hoping to also again serve as the House Assistant Leader. Here's what Representative Dunwell and his constituents say they want to see in their community.
It's good to see you. Stop back anytime.
Julia Prendergast greets shoppers as they browse the shelves at Fine Things Reclaimed, the store she's owned for years.
Hello, how are you? Good. Welcome.
She hopes state lawmakers will help her keep customers coming.
Making sure that we make it easy for small business as opposed to making it harder for them. Small business is the heart of every small town.
Another top concern?
Property taxes, they've just gotten out of hand.
Because her business relies on shoppers having money to spend.
Anything they could do to help the everyday person be able to afford a house and their property taxes would be huge.
Because of who I am.
Her state representative, John Dunwell, won re-election in November.
People have not seen their wages go up, but they've seen their house insurance go up. They've seen their property taxes go up. They've seen their grocery bill go up.
The Republican is pushing for property tax reform, what he calls truth in taxation.
But it's really allowing people to see what they're going to pay in property taxes prior to anything being voted in. And I'm talking real numbers, house by house, so they can have a voice and get a chance to engage with their local officials.
Others' concerns go beyond the economy.
I always worried about my kids, but now I have to worry about my grandkids, and it's scary.
We met Calvin and Nancy Nickel by the Jasper County Courthouse. The two retirees live in Kellogg, but wonder if their family will stay.
Our oldest grandson, he's 14 now, and you wonder is he going to be interested even staying in the state by the time he gets through high school or college or whatever direction he goes.
While their daughter lives in Iowa, their son already moved to Kansas City when he couldn't find a job in the area.
And he talked to him about coming back to Iowa, and he says, no way.
On top of those concerns, they also worry about school safety. Nancy spent years working at Newton High School.
You always wondered if someone would come in. I had a gal that I worked with that she says, oh, it's never going to happen in Newton. Well, I'm sure Perry people thought that too. and a lot of other smaller schools. Yep, it's never going to happen here. Well, it could.
Dunwell says he wants to make schools more safe.
To say we have mental health funding issues, let's take a look at that. Making sure guns are not in the wrong people's hands. But at some point you have to ask yourself the question, what causes a 14-year-old white student from a middle-class family to wake up one day and decide he wants to commit mass murder? There's something broken in our society.
He says lawmakers need to address that question.
And so I think there has to be continually looking at how are we strengthening families? How are we encouraging families? How are we creating that stability? And that's not an easy issue. That's not just even a government issue. But we want to make sure we're doing the right things in government that at least incentivize and help families and don't actually create greater problems and difficulties.
2 Republicans represent the Marshalltown area, and both are first-time lawmakers. Republican David Blum represents Iowa House District 52, and the area's new state senator, Kara Wormy, also represents parts of Story County. Here's what the people they represent say they want to see changed where they live.
Inside Marshalltown's Tremont Grill, several customers want their state lawmakers to reverse course on education.
I'm totally against the vouchers for private schools.
I think it's giving money to the wrong place. I'm afraid of what it's going to do to the public schools, especially the smaller ones.
In between sips of coffee, Doug Jocelyn told us he's frustrated by recent changes to how area education agencies are funded.
I think the area education agencies have done and will do a great job for the state of Iowa, and now they're being torn apart.
But he's not optimistic things will change.
The Republicans have control and they can do whatever they please. We can write letters and talk to our people in the state house who we elected, but it's not going to change.
Jocelyn's new state representative is Republican David Blum.
I'm excited to represent everyone, whether they voted for me or not.
Blum unseated incumbent Democrat Sue Cahill in the November election. It's the first time a Republican will represent this area in more than 2 decades.
I believe that the people chose me because I'm willing to listen to people on all sides, and that's the perspective I'm going to bring going into the legislative session.
Blum's top priorities?
I want to make sure that we lower costs for hardworking Iowans. Want to make sure we address the rising property taxes.
That's also what Republican Kara Wormy hopes to tackle.
Protect the record income tax cuts that we've had, take a look at property taxes and anything we can do there.
The new state lawmaker will represent Marshall County and parts of Story County in the Iowa Senate, a change some constituents are excited about.
I did vote for Kara Wormy.
Jolene Hornbuckle teaches in Nevada. She hopes her new state senator will stop cell phone use in school.
They're a big distraction in the classroom. I'm a substitute teacher, so I'm really hoping that with her and Mrs. Reynolds, they can get some legislation in place so that learning is not with distractions.
Wormy says she wants to improve education, mental health, and economic development.
Iowa's a great place to live and work and grow, and we want to protect that for the future. We want to continue that. So I have a lot to learn, excited to dive in and work hard for my constituents and for all of Iowa.
Welcome back to Close Up. This morning, we've been hearing from state lawmakers about their focus for the upcoming legislative session. House District 47 covers parts of Dallas, Guthrie, and Greene counties and includes Dallas Center, Perry, and Jefferson. Republican Carter Nordman represents that district. Hear what he and his constituents have to say about the change they want to see in 2025.
Shelley Flockhart has spent the last decade styling clients at her Dallas Center hair salon. But since the pandemic, she says it's gotten harder to keep products on the shelves.
When we went through COVID, there were all kinds of product lines that were made overseas. Everything kind of dwindled down. Now, products are a little bit harder. There's all kinds of shipping costs.
She wants more products made closer to home, and she's hoping state lawmakers can help.
Encouraging through, tax benefit of some manufacturing plant to be able to come to Iowa. That would be great.
She also hopes they lower property taxes.
Making taxes lower on properties, helps a business not only lease the building, but be able to purchase one on top of their own home. So anytime that we can have more possibility of that, it helps all small business owners.
Her state representative, Carter Nordman.
If we need to rip the whole code section out of the code book and look at how we can do it differently, I'm all for that. I think any discussion at this point is good.
Says his top priority is property tax reform. The Republican was reelected to the Iowa House in November.
Iowa ranks one of the highest states in the nation when it comes to property taxes, and I think that's wrong. We've done a great job on some of the other taxes. I think it's time we focus on property taxes next, while still ensuring that we are funding and the obligations that we have at the local level.
That includes public school funding, a top concern for coffee shop owner Meg Dickinson.
Vouchers have had a really big impact on our school district, so I would really like to see them reassess the importance of keeping public funds for public schools.
She also wants lawmakers to expand access to health care.
There's a way that the state could be more involved in ensuring that we have a proper distribution or a more equitable distribution of health care. Some people have to drive upwards of half an hour just to go to a doctor to have a cold checked out.
Nordman's the new chair of the Iowa House Committee focused on health care.
What we're going to focus on in the Health and Human Services Committee is affordability and access. Affordability and access to mental health care, to maternity health care, to child care. And so we're going to, every bill that we look at, we're going to ask the question, how does this help with accessibility and affordability to health care?
And you can find all of these stories on what your leaders promised to work on this legislative session on our website and mobile app. Just look for the Commitment 2024 tab. Still to come, the whimsical scene of trees, ribbons, and lights that fill the columns and corners of the White House, how it all comes together and what it means to the First Lady. Tradition and transition are part of the holiday transformation at the White House. Before we go today, First Lady Jill Biden shares the theme of her final holiday season on Pennsylvania Avenue. Here's Leslie Foster with an inside look.
The nation's home for the holidays is aglow with the spirit of gratitude and goodwill.
We are guided by the values that we hold sacred: faith, family, and service to our country.
A season of peace and light is this year's theme. It's a message that reflects the America we hope to be. From the bells that welcome visitors in the East Colonnade, to the trees adorned in the Red Room, and letters from children sent from around the nation, to images of Americans holding hands in solidarity in the East Room, and a canopy of doves in the hallways, bringing the light of peace, hope, and love.
This year, tradition and transition are part of the holiday transformation here at the White House. And for First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, a final chance to put her last touches on the season here and her legacy.
You made it a home, alive with purpose and possibility. And that's why each year we've opened the doors of the People's House wider and wider so we can bring the light of more Americans into these halls.
The imprint of Dr. Biden, the educator, is reflected in the library with children's books and in self-portraits of children on the trees in the state dining room. In the diplomatic room, you see a nod to the First Lady's family tradition of putting oranges into stockings for good luck, and hundreds of volunteers poured their hearts into every detail.
A lot of people don't know is most of those decorations we handmade here in the White House over the last 72 hours.
There are 83 trees here in the White House. Towering gold trees remind us in these times of the sacrifice we should remember all year. And of course, any visit to see these most decked of halls must include a stop here to see the official Christmas tree in the Blue Room. The tour closes with a send-off and reflections of unity, along with hope and renewal for the future.
Well, thank you for joining us for KCCI 8 News Close Up. We'll see you back here next Sunday. Have a great day.